a pony gnarly bite. Oh, better. I got a place where winning ain't tough to do. You wanna be cool, stable do. Your horse racing fantasy come true. But no, stable do.
Download the Stable Duel app and play today.
Good Friday morning, everybody. We are here for another edition of This Week in Stable Duel. We've got the sniper, Barry Spears. We've got Matt DeSantis, myself, Gino Bacola, ready to get you set up for some weekend racing, Friday and Saturday best bets. We'll talk about the Stable Duel contest for this weekend. We're in the middle of big racing from Royal Ascot. Just saw the Diesel slam one down. Impressive win from the Shaq daddy. Shaquille gets the job done in race 2 from Royal Ascot after a very, very tough start. That was extremely impressive. And Maddie, what's great is that Stable Duel has games for Royal Ascot. Now, for today's game, it has already started. We've already seen a couple races go. But if you're someone that's getting up early and watching these races, the 5th and final day of the Royal Ascot meet will be tomorrow morning, and you still have a shot to play. You're going to give out a play or two for Royal Ascot, I believe, for tomorrow, right?
Or 3 or 4. I mean,
there we go. Beautiful.
The beauty about
all the plays.
The beauty of Royal Ascot is, I mean, we would have to really elevate what the no chalk zone means there, because everything's 5 to 1 or higher.
Everything.
So you really
I was going to say,
go like 10 to 1, 15 to 1. Yeah, that's really the no chalk zone there. So, I mean, there's just tremendous value up and down the card because of how large the fields are and the quality of all the fields. So, yeah, we'll absolutely do that. And, you know, if people have yet to play in the contest, there's a $30 contest tomorrow with about $2,500 payout. So that's what's coming up tomorrow at Royal Ascot.
Barry, when we were talking about the schedule over the last few days, it's kind of a calm before the storm, like the next couple weeks, as far as there's not quite as big of racing as we've been dealing with the Triple Crown races. But then as soon as that summer hits and we've got Saratoga and Del Mar, like every single weekend, big racing from those. We'll have Del Mar contests for Stable Duel. A lot of people will be focusing on Saratoga as well. And then there'll be action from, you know, Monmouth. We'll have some big stakes weekends as well. So we'll have a really fun summer ahead.
Yeah, I mean, definitely looking forward to it. But in the meantime, you know, we have this little lull in the action. But sometimes those races in this time of year where everything's kind of quiet, it's when you get good prices and good racing, you know, just you know, people kind of falling asleep at the wheel. So maybe we can take advantage of some long shots and make some money.
And what it does is it gives you a chance to maybe focus on different places, maybe different tracks, different things that you might not be playing. For us today, that'll be a little bit of Thistledown, a track that I probably only look at a couple times a year, but they have a very good card. If you're someone who has not looked at Thistledown, or you think, I don't play that track all that often, on Saturday, they have an all stakes pick 4. And it's a 15% takeout pick 4 too. So it's a low takeout pick 4. There's a Stable Duel game, and 2 Phils, the Kentucky Derby runner-up. He's going to be the headliner in the Ohio Derby. You're also going to see Bishop's Bay, who was the runner-up behind Arcangelo in the Peter Pan. So 2 horses who are, you know, really peaking, kind of trending in the right direction. That'll be a fun race. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But for now, let's dive into some plays for today. So for Friday, Gulfstream Park, we're going to head on over there and we're going to pull up the past performances from DRFDailyRacingForm.com. That's the place that I always go when I'm looking for some help to handicap. If you need past performances, right?
Me too.
You need help with the clocker reports that they've got at Belmont Park now. You need help with some betting strategy, or what's great is they flipped the format over about a year and a half ago. So now all the articles are free too. You can just stay up to date with all the news, everything going on, DRF.com. So let's pull up those past performances for Friday, for today at Gulfstream. Matt, run us through today's contest schedule and what the options are for today's games.
Absolutely. So there's 3 remaining contest schedules. So Gulfstream Park, there's a $5 game, $5 entry, $250 pot with a maximum of 2 entries per that game. There's also a harness racing contest that I know you might be giving out a pick or 2 for at the Meadows. And there is both a free contest and a $5 contest. The free contest, $50 pot, the $5 contest, a $300 pot. And then finally, there is a Monmouth Park game today as well. That is a maximum of 2 entries, $10 pot, or I'm sorry, $10 entry, $500 pot. So a few different options, nothing that's too cost prohibitive. You want to get in the game, you want to try things out, $5 free, $10, a lot of great stuff for people.
Let's get to race number 2. I believe is our first race on the card at Gulfstream that we're going to be looking at today, and that one's for you, Maddie. Right? You'll be diving into race 2.
Yeah, so race 2 is it's on the synthetic, baby, and that's where we like to go. We like to go to the and it's funny, in between the time I handicapped this and the time we started recording, this was a 6-horse field, but the number 1 horse has scratch. So this is now a 5-horse field. This is a prime field to attack in stable duel because every horse is going to get positive points if they finish within 10 lengths of the winner. And so I just, like I said, this race makes a lot of sense to attack from a stable duel standpoint. I ultimately ended up on the number 4 horse. And the reason I ended up on this horse and, winning at ease is a horse that if you look at what this horse does well, it's run long on the synthetic. And this horse has nice effort going long on the synthetic. And when you start to isolate those, suddenly the horse's 2 for 22 career record starts to look a lot different. Suddenly the horse is actually 2 for 9 winning, 5 for 9 in the money going long on the synthetic. And when this horse is finished just off the board on synthetic, it's actually a lot of times just been by just a little bit of 4th place finishes, a few times. And this horse actually ran in a stakes race going way back on the synthetic going long. I mean, so this is a horse that has some really interesting running lines. I also just think this is a horse that's going to get the right type of setup and trip in terms of, being able to sit in kind of more of a stalking position, doesn't need the lead, has nice early speed, but we always talk on the synthetic. We typically don't like a horse that's necessarily right on the lead, and we don't like deep closers. You want to look for horses that are stalkers or mid-pack horses. That's what this horse is. I just think this horse gives you a really honest effort. And honestly, this horse has speed figures to run back to going long on the synthetic that absolutely match up here with the rest of the field. Is this horse going to win? I don't know. But at 15-1, only $500 in stable duel, this horse is going to give you a very honest effort and I think a really good account of itself. And I have a feeling that she's going to be able to get the job done in terms of at least getting you, 25, 35 points in stable duel, which if you can get that out of a $500 horse is a fantastic play.
Great way to start. Like you said, and you're attacking a field that's small. And with the scratches, this horse is going to get bet down, especially with one of the major players being taken out. Right. So it's a great race to attack already because you feel like you've already won before the race is even run, right?
Right.
It's a good way to approach as Maddie takes a swing in race number 2. As we move a little later on in the day, Barry has one in race 4 and race 6 for Gulfstream Park. So let's head to race number 4. Barry, talk to us about who you're looking at in this 4th race, 5 furlong maiden special weight on the dirt.
Yeah, it's a state bred maiden too, which definitely makes a difference because you're not going to see a whole lot of pedigree information or anything on a lot of these horses. So
I saw one was like 1 for 4. I was like, all right, well, there you go.
Exactly. You see the dams, this is their first foal.
Yeah.
A lot of that kind of stuff going on with the smaller type breeders that usually get in these Florida state bred races. That being said, just off a couple of things, I'm gonna take number 6 Tear Duck here. This horse somehow was somewhere else to start his training, and his last work in particular piqued my interest in this horse. Mm-hmm. It was a much improved workout on the surface where they're going to be running. Not many can say that here. And that might be a big edge. I like, one of the angles I do like to play in races like this, where there's not much form, but, there's a bunch of horses in the race. It's longest, fastest gate work closest to the race. It's an indication of, a little bit of talent, speed, early speed. And usually in these kind of races, that sort of thing does well. Horses that get to the front, go to the front, and they stay out front. Hopefully that's what happens with Tear Duck. We'll give him a shot at 8-1.
So 3,000 in your stable dual lineup. Tear Duck, a horse who we don't have a ton of information about, but that's sometimes the best, the ones that you get a little sneaky feeling on right here.
Exactly.
Right. Tear Duck, the number 6, 8-1 on the morning line, only 3,000 in the stable dual lineup there. So Barry, you're going to head, I believe, to race number 6, just a couple doors down. Race number 6 at Gulfstream on the 9 race Friday card. We'll go 1 mile and 70 yards on the synthetic there. Set us up for this one.
Yeah, this is a claimer, non-winners of 3 races lifetime, 12-5. This is the typical summer race at Gulfstream. So we like to attack these because you can find some prices, especially, with the synthetic, because there's no grass, it throws a little loop, into the whole mix, and you can get prices from time to time. Now, in this race, I'm going to number 6, Silent Chaos, for a bunch of reasons that I'll obviously go through. But if you look at this horse's races on the synthetic at a similar level back in October, November, December of last year, any one of those races will be really, really, really competitive in this spot. Now, if you look at this horse's race on May 6th, was way out wide, had a huge excuse, and just didn't really get into it and didn't really have a shot. And that was at open company. Then goes to the turf, doesn't really do very much. I think the form is a little dirtied up here. And I think this horse has some races to go back to on the synthetic. It has 3 wins, which nobody in this race can say on the synthetic. And I think this one is going to be sitting on a good race.
So there's another one from the sniper. My clicker, I'm about half second slow on my clicker today, just getting involved with.
See, that's how you lose on Jeopardy.
I was going to say,
a little
which is
slow.
funny. We've talked about this before. I've been on Jeopardy the first round to get through when you go in, because they have a
right. They have you play games, right?
You do a test first, and then if you get, I think, in the top 20% of the test, then they bring in everybody and have them do the in-person games. You're absolutely right. And so you have to do just like that. You got to get used to the clicker. You're there with a few people. It's funny. You're in a room. You're wondering they're going to take you 3 at a time. And almost always they do this. They will give you categories based on your strengths. Like they will, you write down some of the things like your jobs, your interests, and stuff like that. And especially in the practice games, they will give you one. I had a horsing around category on mine when I was in there. And it was just like the easiest questions you would possibly imagine, for horse racing answers. So
Secretariat.
Yeah, exactly. That's all right. They're all
Secretariat or
like
flight
that.
line. I don't know.
And it was fun. It was nerve-wracking. I don't know if they've changed it, but when you take the initial test, you can sort of cheat a little bit because everything's based on they give you, I think, 20 seconds to answer each question online. So you can have people sitting there with you, helping you. You can have a few different people as long as you just answer the question before the 20 seconds are up. But then what ends up happening, you start getting, wait, you looked that up. And we're all, you get people looking stuff up, and then you're like, no, that's not it. And then you're like, oh, no, the time. And you start yelling. So sometimes you got to make sure you get one person who's quick helping you, because if you got a few people, I did that one time, and my buddies, I'm like, these guys aren't smart. Why am I listening to them as they're looking this stuff up? No, thank you. So, our Jeopardy tangent there as we continue along. Barry, you have one more, right? Race number 7. That's where you want to head?
Yes, sir.
I'm there too.
Oh,
yes.
We're both in race number 7. Let's see where we're going to go. Barry, you start us off, and we'll see if we're on the same one or if Matt's going in a different direction.
I got a feeling we might be on the same one here, because there weren't really much price options.
That's true.
That were viable. But I ended up on number 5, Golden Voice.
Oh, we did end up on a different horse. Okay.
Oh wow. Okay.
Nice.
This
Barry, wait, did you pick this just because of me?
Yes, I did.
I was going to say.
Pipes, man.
I thought so. Yeah.
You got that voice, the radio voice that I don't have. Um, if you look back in April and February 2022, actually the February this horse broke his maiden, broke her maiden at Turfway Park, and then went into a similar race that they're running in today. Um, right after that, and ran well on synthetic. Probably, arguably, this horse's best race. You could kind of say that. Then they ventured off into turf, and now are coming back to synthetic. And this horse on May 26th ran a pretty good race. I don't think the running style was ideal, because most of the time on the synthetic you don't want to, it's hard to go wire to wire on it. It does happen, but not as often as it does, say, on dirt. Um, I think this horse sitting a stalking trip right behind the leaders, and there's enough pace in here where this horse can kind of maneuver right up to the front, and be close up without actually being on the lead. And I think this one's going to sit a real good trip, has some back class here, and I think this one's all systems go.
Golden Voice 6-1. So that, Matt, is right on our par, right? That's
Yep.
the price that you're looking to aim for when you're building a stable dual lineup, because you need to hit that 5,000 per race average. You're putting together a lineup of 10 horses with a $50,000 salary cap. So that's right on par. Those are usually the types of prices that we're looking for. Who are you looking at in this race, Matty, the 7th race at Gulfstream today?
Yeah, I'm going right next door to the number 4, actually, just to the inside. So that's Kosi, or Kosia, however it's pronounced. And so this one is, I think, an interesting horse that's 8-1 on the morning line, only going to cost you $3,000. So again, a little bit below average. So this allows you to spend up on a favorite if you like one of those later in the card or earlier in the card. This is very similar to my play in the first race, which is if you isolate the synthetic efforts, this horse makes a lot of sense. This horse actually looks quite good. So this horse is 11 for 17 in the money on synthetic. Career, the horse is only 15 for 33 in the money. So most of this horse's best efforts are on the synthetic. 5 of this horse's career 6 victories are on the synthetic, despite the fact only half of its races have been on that surface. So overwhelmingly, this horse likes this surface a lot. You also have seen this horse steadily improve. Now, there is a little bit of a class jump going on here. This horse has been running in claiming 10s, now stepping up to an optional claiming 20, starter allowance 12. But this horse is on the come up and seems to be running better and better. And what I really like about this is it seems like Kevin Krieger has figured out this horse a little bit, that the last 2 times out, he's been riding this horse effectively and getting better. In sending speed figures last 3 times out, that last speed figure is absolutely good enough to be competitive and potentially win this race if he takes another step forward. So I think just very similar to going back to what Barry was talking about. This is a horse that actually should sit a pretty nice trip again, that kind of stalking mid-pack trip, and then be able to go. So there's a lot to like there. And as you were pulling up there on the DRF formula, you can go back and see there's already been a next out winner from that previous race. So, a lot to like there. And at 8-1, you're getting a little bit of value for a really hot barn. Robert DeBona winning 34% of his entries right now at Gulfstream Park. So hot connections, horse that's ascending, likes the synthetic. That's where I'll be going in race number 7.
Yeah, so not only do you get the speed figures that are ascending, but what you want to see on top of that is you got the key race, right? The horses that come back to win next time out. So lots of positives for the 4 Kozia, and then right next door for the 5 Golden Voice.
Step Brothers.
That's one of my favorite scenes, just to pull up. Like, that's one of those ones when I need a smile or a laugh real quick. You just pull that up, and she's got a smile, and and they're all just rocking it, man. $500 a week for voice lessons, and this is what you get. You're awful. You're terrible. He's yelling at his wife as we get set to finish up here. Friday, Gulfstream. Good luck today at Gulfstream Park. If you're going to get entered in any of these stable dual games, we'll have some plays for you for Saturday at Thistledown and at Royal Ascot. But as we move along, I'm actually going to give out a few plays over at the Meadows in just a moment. But I did want to mention, because we have them pulled up right now, the Daily Racing Form past performances and how you all can get these past performances that we're looking at, the formulator past performances, for free if you want. If you do not have a DRF Bets account, go sign up for a DRF Bets account right now. Use the promo code WINNING. Right away, they're going to put $10 in your account when you use that promo code. If you deposit $250, they'll match that $250 immediately. So all of a sudden, the $250 you put in, it's now up to $510. You'll have $510 in there. They're going to give you 10 free formulator cards, the ones that we're using right here, where you can click on the charts, you can click on the replays, check all that stuff out. And then every $50 that you wager, you'll get another credit for a formulator card in your account. So everything you need with all those big summer meets coming up. Think about it. You're probably going to be playing the races most days at Del Mar and at Saratoga. So you should stack up right now and build up some of that credit with those past performances. Speaking of past performances, you can actually get past performances for free for harness racing at most tracks online on their website. Matt, what are the games today for the Meadows? I believe we have a free game.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. So if you're new to harness racing, you just want to try it out, dip your toe in. There's a free contest. There's a $50 pot included. So, you might win a couple bucks there. There's also a $5 game. So again, not even that big. So if Bree talks about this all the time. All three of us talk about this all the time. If you've done the work to cap the card, go enter the $5 game. Because you've already done the work and it's only $5 extra, and the payouts are significantly better. There's less competition. Just to give the people an understanding, there's 198 people entered in the free contest. There's 23 people entered in the $5 contest.
And I understand we're not billionaires, right? We have
sure.
Well, I understand. You have good weeks, you have bad weeks. There are weeks sometimes where you're waiting for a check. Or you lost your bankroll for that week and you just have to wait and maybe you don't have enough money. But so I can get it when sometimes if there's like $100 game and a free game where people say, I couldn't afford to get in there. But this $5 game where it's so affordable, make sure to throw your hat in the ring. I put a few plays up on the website as well on the Stable Duel blog. If you just need a little help, maybe you don't play harness all the time, and I'll dish out those plays real quick for you right here. So in race number 2, we're going to be looking at the number 4, Ponda Luck. Ponda Luck last out, finished 3rd, but was close in that race. Was only beaten about a length and a half for all the money. What I liked about that effort from Ponda Luck, showed some early speed, settled 3rd, and you could tell that they wanted to go. They were aggressive. This horse was live that day. But had to sort of take back and settle 3rd, and then got shuffled back to 4th when a horse on the outside made an early move. But this horse was full of late pace, sort of moving around in between, and just missed 2nd. And at 7-1, Ponda Luck will only cost you $4,000 in your Stable Duel lineup. The number 4, Ponda Luck, in race number 2 at the Meadows. So that'll keep us under that average that we're looking for with a $4,000 play. Then we move to race number 5, guys, and we're looking not at Scuba Steve. We're looking at Scuba Dan here.
Scuba Dan.
Scuba Steve was a legend.
Yeah.
Steve was awesome.
Steve. Love me some Scuba Steve. Here's Scuba Danny as Scuba Dan catches a field that just does not seem to have very much early speed. You may know the name, even if you are not someone who plays the harness races all the time, of Dave Pallone. Pallone jumps on, so you're getting a very big driver upgrade.
Straight up beast.
Yeah, you get a huge driver upgrade, and you get a horse who has the most natural speed and gets the inside draw. You just sort of compare the rest of this field like you would in a thoroughbred race. There are not a lot of horses in here who usually are forwardly placed. That's not their racing style. So now we have the one who has a very good aggressive driver who gets the inside draw and might be the most naturally quick in this field. I think the one, Scuba Dan, is in a very good spot at 5-1. So that one will cost you $6,000 in your Stable Duel lineup. As we continue along, one more. Let's go to race number 10, and we'll take a look at the number 5, Keystone Chaos, in this 10th race. You can get these past performances at meadowsharnessracing.com for free, and then go get into those Stable Duel games for tonight for $5, or that free entry game. Here's my final of 3 plays, Keystone Chaos. What I like about this runner, if you look at his most recent form, 3 of his last 5 races, he's been second. He's been very, very sharp as of late, and he's shown some versatility. In his most recent start, he left. He showed some early speed. 2 and 3 starts back, you're seeing him come from off of it a little bit more. He also missed a week in between his June 2nd and June 15th race. These are horses that are usually on the every 7-day weekly rotation. So if a horse misses 1 week, they're not quite as sharp as the others. He missed that 1 week. Now he's back on the regular rotation. I think he'll be even a little bit sharper here. The number 5, Keystone Chaos. So a couple quick plays for you today. If you're looking to get involved, totally free to enter the Meadows harness game tonight. There's also a $5 game. Get involved. Head on over to Stable Duel. Get those entries in and play, race, win. So let's turn the page now to Saturday. We're going to talk about some Royal Ascot, and we're also going to talk about Thistledown with an all-stakes pick 4. It is amazing, Matt, because this is one of the first times that I've probably really been paying attention to Royal Ascot, like everything that's going on. I'm usually up. I'll know a couple of the horses. If there's an American horse or two, I'll keep an eye on it. I'll usually catch the end of some of the races as I'm getting up. But this year it's been a little bit different. I've been up for all of the Royal Ascot races, sort of helping out with DRF, like putting some tweets and stuff out there.
Sure, you don't ever sleep, bro.
No, never sleeping. But it's so amazing how much goes into it. And then how quickly it's like, oh my gosh, it's the final day tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's just, it's incredible. It's very similar to like the Derby in that, right? Like the Derby Oaks, how there's so much buildup for that day or those 2 days. And because to me, it's more than just the Derby, because there's so many great races every day. You have 3 or 4 more incredible group races, prestigious races. I called my dad up yesterday joking. I said, hey, Dad, how much do you have on the 29 in this race? He was like, what? I said, there's 33 horses in this race. He said, I don't even know who I'm looking at, my poor dad. So
I know when it's that with a sprint, it's just incredible because I mean, it's one thing when there's a lot of horses, and I know people talk about the saddle pads all the time, but when there's a lot of horses and it's a longer race, the announcers do a fantastic job of reorienting your eyes to look at the silks and the jockey caps. And so, they'll describe, the pink silks and blah, blah, blah. And so you start watching for that rather than the saddle pads. But in the sprints, it's just chaos. It's just I don't even know where my horse is here. Like maybe this horse is in third right now. And then
they'll separate, right? There'll be 2 different groups or 3 different groups. And you're looking, am I in the middle group? Am I in the back left? It's so, and I always get, like you're saying, I start to get anxious, like looking for my horse. And then I always get calmed down by how incredible the announcers are.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. And they are detailing every horse all the way through. And then on the 3rd group to the left, I'm like, no freaking way. No way. Because Barry, I've called some races before off monitors here in the US. And I've done it when they're small races, or there have been times where like the sound goes out, and I'm hosting something live. And so I'll jump in and kind of have fun and sort of talk over it like you're calling it. And I'm a confident guy. I've watched a lot of races. I truly believe if there was a field of like 6, 8, 10, I could probably sit up in the booth for a race or 2 and do it. There is no chance. And I don't know if I could. I'm saying I just believe that I could. I wouldn't even try over there, Maddie. No chance trying to call one of these races. So as we talk about how difficult it is, we're going to go give you some plays for Royal Ascot right now for Saturday. How about that? As we jump into Saturday, and you are going to start with us in race number 2, I believe.
Yeah, I'll just hit the kind of the 3 group stage stakes races, 2, 3, and 4. And, we joked earlier that, we can, almost all these horses are a price, to be honest with you, in Stable Duel. And so, there are some really nice horses in this race that are, really low prices. So a horse like Mysterious Midnight is really good for Charlie Appleby at 8-1. The horse like the Antarctic is a huge monster from last year who's coming back, and for Aidan O'Brien at 6-1. So, I mean, those are horses that you should absolutely consider using. I made it a little bit harder on myself. I'm going to go with a horse that's 10-1 on the morning line just to, again, give a little bit more value there. And that's the number the number 10 horse, who is number 2 on the because that's always the differentiation too. The post versus the assigned number. Holloway Boy. This is a horse that actually won on debut last year at Royal Ascot, and won the Chesham Stakes
40-1.
Yeah, at a huge price that day, and has come back and has not won since, but has turned in consistently solid efforts in group level, group 2, group 3, even group 1 races, and came back in Newmarket. And here's the thing. If you go through and you've been looking at the PPs for Royal Ascot, that Newmarket meet is a complete toss for so many horses because of how soft the ground was that day. The weather's been clearing up in Royal Ascot. There was obviously rain on Tuesday, but it's been getting nicer and nicer and nicer as the week has gone on. I personally am just tossing a lot of the form that we see coming out of Newmarket because I know it's going to reverse now that these horses are on firm ground. And you look at everything else this horse has done, and it makes all the sense in the world to use this horse in Stable Duel.
And you know what happens a lot of the time, Matt? That race, because it's a bad race, gets you a better price and throws a lot of people off a horse. And what's nice about it is it gets you what you want, the fitness. That's really as a gamblers, all we want when we see a horse making their first start back really is fitness. Like Barry will point out a lot of times, you really like to see a horse come back with the speed figure that's improved and, that takes a nice step forward. But in this case, we can just throw it right out because of the ground, because of the condition. So we can eliminate it and just say, hey, you know what? This horse at least got that fitness race in, got to shake some of the rust off, build that up. A lot of folks will look and go, this horse isn't in good form or threw in a clunker last time out. I'm going to go elsewhere. But I like that as a gambler. One person who kind of taught me not to worry about where horses finish in races like that was Matt Carruthers. Because he's a big speed player in particular. So a lot of times if you're playing a horse, like if I'm playing a speed horse, the most relevant thing to me is, did they show speed in their last race? Because that's what I want to know. I don't care sometimes if they finish beating 15 lengths, because if they get battled and then they back up, well, that's fine. I just want to know, did they show what they normally show? And here with Holloway Boy, I'm in complete agreement with you. We've seen a lot of horses just put a line right through that race. Timing was perfect. It was your first start back of the year. It was May the 6th. Now you've got 6 weeks to get ready for this. You feel like this was probably the one that they had been pointing for, that second start back all along, where they were a little bit overmatched at 18-1 in that spot off the bench. So didn't mean to steal it from you, but I like looking at things like that where people will look at a horse and kind of dismiss them. As gamblers, that's when you want to jump on, when you feel like a lot of other people might dismiss.
Could not agree more. And so I think this is a horse to use in Stable Duel, and then one to use, we talk about horses that get bet down a lot. This is a horse that probably is going to float up a little bit. And so this is an even better horse to use in your, however you want to, whether you're using Omnis or Quinellas or whatever the hell you're betting over there. You can have fun with that one. So that's my play in race number 2.
Next door.
Yeah. Right next door. Race number 3. I just want to also say in race number 3, there's a horse, Emirati Anna, who finished second by half a length to Caravel in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. She is 50-1 on the board. That just shows you the gap between what we do and what literally all of Europe does. So it is, it's like, oh, that's nice. That's really sweet that we have these little races. And then just these monsters over here that we don't even get to run against because it's like not even fair. So,
well, you see, it's sort of similar when we look at like the dirt form when other horses come to the US, like what we're trying to do with some of the Japanese horses this year, right? Yeah. Oh, where does Continue Our Race compared to Mandarin Hero? Like, what levels are they at versus our levels? It's very similar.
Yeah. So ultimately, I'm going to go to a horse, which actually in post position 1, the number 9 horse, Kinross, for Ralph Beckett with Frankie Dettori, who we just saw win his 80th career victory earlier today at Royal Ascot. And
like, how do you retire? When you're right now, like, you know what I mean? Like when you're as good as you've ever been. He came out and was awesome in Southern California. And the one thing that I didn't know about him I didn't realize how good of a speed rider he was.
Yeah.
He's incredible on the front end, like in dirt sprints here, which is just unbelievable. So shout out to him again. So talented.
Incredibly talented. And so this is a horse that is coming admittedly back from the bench for the first time since running at the Breeders' Cup Mile and finishing a very, very close up third that day and just passing nearly the entire field. I mean, this is a deep, deep closer who has a devastating late kick. The thing is, if you go back and look, Kinross is a horse that has run in fantastic form and it has come off the bench to run in nice spots before and run well. Has won a Group 3 off the bench going back a couple of years, ran third by a neck in another Group 3, has run well off the bench before. And this is a horse that just strung together 4 consecutive wins. And 2 of them were Group 1 last year, and 2 of them were Group 2s. This is a really, really good horse. 8-1, only going to cost you $3,000. I've always been very high on this horse. And so this is one I'll be using in my stable for sure on Saturday.
Yeah, can't really say a whole lot bad about this horse, who just has incredible races on the page at some of the top levels. Even last year when it was only beaten a couple lengths in, finishing 8th in a field of 24, only beaten 2 lengths that day. Kinross, we'll see if Dettori can get another one. You sort of felt like it was, for this being the meet that was his last meet. I don't know if there was pressure on him, but maybe in the first few races, just trying to get the first one out of the way, I want to at least win one more time. And now you almost feel like he's just sort of playing with house money,
Absolutely.
And I just feel like he's going to get back in the winner's circle at least one more time, either later today or tomorrow.
Oh, for sure. So one last play very quickly in the group race number 4, which is the final of the group stakes races. And again, we're just going to go to the inside post. The number 2 horse changing of the guard. This is a typical stable duel play. 10-1. This horse will get bet down because of connections. Aiden O'Brien, Ryan Moore. Second back from the long layoff. Actually ran halfway decent over the soft ground. And more importantly, what Barry talks about a lot, this is a horse that the time form ratings actually improved off the layoff, ran its career best effort. And this horse has run well over soft ground before, but has run excellent over firmer turf as well. So, and also has delivered some clunkers on the soft. So it's not as if this is just, it's a soft ground horse. And when the going is soft, that this horse will run well. But ran well in that Group 3 last time out. Like I said, gets one off the bench. One of the things that is interesting about Ascot, which people will talk about, is that there is sometimes bias on the 2 rails. That when you're further outside, when you're in post position 1 or on the far outside post position, you actually kind of want to be out there, as opposed to horses in the middle who have to choose which of the 2 columns am I going to go down, or kind of which direction am I going to be going. And so a lot of times you want to be kind of on those rails, even in the routing races. So like I said, changing the guard, that'll be my play in race 4.
3 plays for you for Royal Ascot for Saturday. And Matt, what are the prices on those games one more time if we want to get involved on Saturday over at Royal Ascot?
Sure. There is a $30 contest tomorrow, and there is a $2,400 payout, $500 to the winner, $400 to second place. The top 20 all double up their entry of $30 by winning 60.
That'll get the job done. Saturday, you can start early with Royal Ascot, and then you can make that transition a little later on to Thistledown. One thing I love is when certain smaller tracks get their chance to shine. And this is one of those weekends where we said there's not a whole lot where you're looking at big graded stakes. So Thistledown with a grade 3 Ohio Derby and a really strong field, Matt, for the Ohio Derby, where you get the runner-up from the Kentucky Derby, 2 fills. You get the runner-up from the Peter Pan, who has now been franked, where the Peter Pan winner came back and won the Belmont. And those 2 as headliners. Then you have a couple other kind of fun, later developing 3-year-olds. That's a good group lining up. I think you had kind of mentioned on social media, this field is very, very equivalent and comparable to the Preakness field.
Yeah, somebody asked me, they're like, is this better than the Preakness field? I was like, I don't know if it's better, but it's pretty close. It's not all that it's not all that far apart, because if you think
you
about
probably have 2 horses that were maybe better than anyone else besides Mage.
Right. And that's the thing is, like, so if you think about that Preakness field, First Mission scratched out. Well, who did First Mission get beat by a debut? Bishop's Bay, who's in this race.
Yeah.
Mage obviously wins the Kentucky Derby. Who finishes a very close up second? Two Phils, who's in this race.
And didn't it feel like the way the Preakness, the way the race played out, First Mission probably would have been sitting that right off the pace trip, like looming up like Blazing Sevens did.
That would have been the play if he had run. It was First Mission. And just when he scratched, then National Treasure made sense. But it was, so I think it's a really good field, and it's great to see that. I mean, you'd imagine they're going to pull in a lot of handle. Which is great to see for Thistledown on Saturday, and but the sequence of 9 through 12 is all really nice stakes races. So exciting card to talk about.
All stakes pick 4, and it's a low takeout pick 4 too. It's only 15% takeout and a stable dual game. So we're going to help you out with a few races throughout the day. If you haven't taken a look at Thistledown for this weekend, go get those past performances up from DRF because it is worth taking a swing at. Matt, you are going to start at Thistledown in race 5. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Tell us where you're looking, non-2 allowance, right?
Yeah. And of course, my past performances are not working right now. So Gino, just keep scrolling down for me. There we go. If you don't mind. Remind me who I'm going to be playing.
No problem. No problem.
Who am I playing in this race? Oh, this is so embarrassing. I forget now.
No worries.
Who I'm playing. So but why don't we head to Barry's next play?
No problem.
And if I remember this one, I'll come back to it. Sorry about
Absolutely. Sniper. So you are going to be looking at race number 7. Yes, so let's dive into the 7th race. This one is a 6 furlong dirt sprint. It's a non-winners of 3 allowance race. Talk to us about who jumped out at you here.
Yeah, I ended up on number 2, Cyclone. And there looks like there might be a heated pace here. You got the 1 Fit to Fly, who's probably going to take a lot of money. Inside rail, speed. But there's other speed here. I think the 3 Lucky 19 might want to go. The 4 Rivzona Roll. I guess that's how you say that.
Yeah.
We'll take that. Rivs on a roll.
Rivs is butter, baby, because it's on a roll.
He's on a roll. I got you. All right. We'll go with that. But that one has a lot of speed. The 6 horse, Midnight Majesty, probably takes some action, has speed. Same thing with Hippodrome. This horse kind of falls into a decent trip just based on that alone. And then if you look into the past performances, back in July and June of last year, first 2 races, this horse basically went up against Elite Power and Seal Beach the first 2. Didn't really embarrass himself against Elite Power in that first race. No. And I think there's some talent there. And you'll see that this horse was running on a tougher circuit at Churchill originally, then Oaklawn in their toughest part of their meet, and was running okay despite getting beat. Then shows up at Thistle, breaks the maiden easily, then stretches out to a mile at a non-winners of 2 allowance and wins fairly easily. Now cuts back into this race, and I think this is right up this horse's alley.
And this is a nice price here. Cyclone sounds like, isn't that the name of a roller coaster, like the Cyclone? I feel like this was like one of the real famous ones, right?
Yeah, in Coney Island.
There we go. Yeah, I'm on the West Coast, so I was more of a Six Flags Magic Mountain guy myself. And there's also one in San Diego that's called Belmont Park.
Belmont Park, yeah.
Fun. It has the big coaster right on the street, not too far from Del Mar down there.
Yeah, well, the only reason I remember is because of Joey Chestnut eating hot dogs of the Cyclone right there.
Yeah.
Right at Coney Island.
That's true.
And I think that one of the biggest theme parks is actually in Ohio. I forget what it's something Point.
Yeah,
Cedar Point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All roller coasters.
All roller coasters,
awesome.
Super intense. And I think for the longest time they had like the biggest or the fastest roller coaster. I don't know if they still do.
I used to love watching those shows. They'd come on like the History Channel where they'd have like the 30-minute of like the theme parks and like the tallest coasters, or they'd have the fastest one, and then there'd always be but guess what's actually the fastest ride? The monorail. I'd be like, no, get out of here. Right.
I think I told you this before, Gino, that I was one of those theme park ride historians. Like, that's one of my your secret pleasures.
Yeah, you go down those rabbit holes. You love those. Stephanie does too. My girlfriend worked at Disney World, and she worked at the water park there. So
Oh,
she was
okay.
like one of the lifeguard, like on one of the rides, and worked there, and she had a blast. So she loves Disney, and also we've gone over there. She has some friends that are just like that. They know everything when's coming out a few weeks before. They know the big
Oh, yeah.
rides when they're going to be extended and added on, and such a blast there. As we keep rolling through the Saturday card on a big Saturday, Ohio Derby day over at Thistledown, we are up to race number 8 now, I believe, for Barry. We're going right next door. Barry, talk to us about the 8th race. This one is a non-winners of 4 allowance on the dirt.
Yeah, almost like the last race, pretty much. I mean, other than the fact that it's a state bred race, that's really the only difference. But the competition is definitely different here. They're definitely slower. Definitely, no doubt about it. But there's prices to be had. I mean, the favorites here don't look all that great. You have a little bit of speed here, and I think this race might heat up front. You have Zakaria that has some speed. A horse I almost picked, number 2, Hoppy Gilmore. I only shied away because that horse hasn't been out since last August. Not saying that one can't run well, but I just think probably needs a race. But
my head is just spinning right now, like trying to think of which Happy Gilmore quote or reference I was going to go. It's like overload.
Cowtown Boss has speed. The outside horse Blazing Burrows. Even Elliot the Dragon, who's probably going to take some action. So I'm going to lean towards a horse that's not going to be too forwardly placed, but not too far back. That's just kind of the sweet spot. So I ended up on Susie's Kid, number 5. Now this horse has been running, kind of in and out of this company, but when at this level, this horse runs pretty good. Been running, farther than this race the last couple, which sets this horse up very, very well for this race on Saturday. Speed figure wise fits probably better than anybody else. I mean, consistency is what we're looking for here, and this horse has been very consistent with the speed figures, and I just think this race is a good spot for Susie's Kid.
Susie's Kid, 6-1 on the morning line for the Sniper. Will cost you 5,000 in your stable dual lineup. Shout out to Elliot. That was the name of Pete's Dragon, which was one of my favorites as a kid. Loved me that movie. That was a good one.
Yeah.
So we've got Pete's Dragon here, and we've got that gold jacket up here with Happy Gilmore. Yeah, you got to win that gold jacket like I never did, huh? As we continue along. And up next, we head to the all stakes pick 4 at Thistledown. Race number 9 kicks it off. And Maddie, I believe you are in this 9th with the Daniel Stearns Cleveland Gold Cup. It feels this is a different Daniel Stern, right? We're not talking about Home.
Like
I don't know, maybe
like City Slickers.
City
Slickers.
City Slickers and Home Alone. Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, Daniel Stern narrates
one of yours
A Christmas Story, which takes place in Ohio.
Look at you with the Ohio ties. You did it with the Cyclone, and you did it right here. I gotta give that to you, man. Very well done.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Pennsylvania, so I mean, granted, Eastern Pennsylvania,
Beautiful.
so I was like 8 hours away. But
that's an impressive pull. Nice.
So yeah, these are the things that stay up in my brain for some reason.
I have so much useless information in there that my significant others will always look at me and say, like, can I find a way to make money out of that? My mom plays a game with me where she'll send me a picture of her TV screen of a movie. And I got to say which movie it is. So,
money.
Like I
money
know
all day.
Right. So, but what's hard about this is my mom doesn't realize, like, I know her. So I know the movies that she's watching and that she's going to send me. So like, she'll send me this obscure screenshot and I'll say, Carol, come on, you got to be tougher than that. Like I'm going to get you there. But like, I wish there was some way I could capitalize on that skill somehow. I don't know, Matt. Maybe there's some
I
sort of
love it.
trivial pursuit we can figure out one day where we can use all this information.
It's got to be. We got to be able to capitalize on this one of
Right?
these days.
Yeah.
But yeah. So the Cleveland Cup Gold Stakes, a mile and an eighth, which is really interesting because most of these horses are sprinters who are stretching out for the first time, or they previously stretched out in a turf stakes race, I should say, the last time out. Several of these horses, almost the entire field, ran against each other in that turf stakes race last time out. So. But a lot of these horses are running 6 furlongs. And so it's interesting to see now we're going 9, which is quite the step up for these horses. I ultimately went to the number 3, Paint the Town. Paint the Town.
Yeah.
Is that where you're going to?
Yep.
All
We're
right.
on the same one. Here we go.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So, yeah, I think this horse makes a lot of sense. This horse, before going on the turf, really had never done anything wrong. I mean, this horse had just been consistently getting better and better and better. You saw the ascending speed figures every single time out, and this horse had been clocking, like I said, better in finishes, was perfect in terms of hitting the board, 3 wins. I like this horse quite a bit, and I just think this horse has a lot of ability. And if you look at the pedigree, it should be able to handle the distance. That should not be an issue and a disqualifying factor. So I think this is a nice horse because I'm out on the favorite Trojan Tail. I just think that's a horse that needs the exact right type of setup to do the job, and he's not going to get it because there's other faster horses in this race. But I think Paint the Town, I like this one a lot for Robert Gorman, I should say.
This was a good effort. This horse was bumped a little bit at the start and then was up, was 3 deep before going into the turn, settled a couple lengths off, kind of stayed to the inside at the top of the lane, and then just was a little bit flat late, but it really wasn't a bad effort. And I think the key thing that you pointed out, Matt, not only was it the first start on the turf, it was the first start going long also. Yeah. So now your second start going long, he comes back to the dirt, has run well on the main track here at Thistledown. 2 starts back at Belterra, was beaten in the neck by Trojan Tail.
Yeah.
Like they were right on the wire together. And now Trojan Tail is going to be 5-2, and this one is 5-1 on the morning line. Like I'll always take the value in a situation like this with Paint the Town. Lots of positives. Paint the Town, 5-1 on the morning line will only cost you 6,000 in your stable dual lineup. And if you're playing a pick 4, I think a very intriguing horse to use in the pick 4. I think the wild card in this race, Matt, is the 5.
Oh,
just
yeah.
Not
a
total wild card, right?
Yep.
Like if this horse could win by 10 and it wouldn't shock me at all, or like not hit the board, but I think the race sort of goes through him because he's probably the speed of the race, right?
He's the speed of the race. And I would say anybody who's playing like a late pick 4, obviously you can't do this with Stable Duel, but if you're playing a late pick 4, this is one where I would be paying very close attention to how the track is playing.
Yes,
because if the track is favoring early speed, then Hey Eugene just makes a ton of sense because he is the speed. And you know, he'll be able to go out there and that last race at Oaklawn, you know, it's very similar. It's funny. I actually had a typo in the picks that I had, which is why I didn't see a horse that I liked in the 5th race earlier.
Okay, there we go.
And the horse that I was on was the one that Barry talked about in the 7th race, Cyclone. That was
great.
The one that was my pick, and it was the same logic that Barry used, which was like this horse was running out against just better competition. And Hey Eugene, you see the same sort of thing running in that Oaklawn circuit. And then now coming to Thistledown, I mean, I'm always going to be intrigued by that, especially when you can get even just, you know, Stable Duel only, you know, 4-1, $7,000, but you might be able to get a little bit of price at the windows on this one. So,
hey, Eugene, slow down.
Hey, Eugene. Yeah. Oh, so there's race number 9, which kicks off the late pick 4 there at Thistledown. Let's move to the 10th race. Barry, I believe you have one here in race number 10. I also have one, but you can start us out. This one is the George Lewis Memorial. We'll go 1 mile and a 16th on the main track for older horses. Talk to us about race 10.
Yeah, man. This is a really interesting race all the way around. I'm actually kind of excited to see this race in particular because, you know, they're very evenly matched, this group. But I ended up on number 6, Relish the Ride.
Yes, Barry, get it.
Yeah, I mean, I like patterns. You know, that's kind of my thing. Maybe it's you know, OCD, ADHD, whatever you want to call it. But if you see last year, May 11th, June 3rd, June 25th, this horse is basically 2 sprints and then stretches out in the same race and just got beat a neck to the 3-horse, I believe, Mobile Solution. Ran a winning race, probably should have won at 30-1 last year. Comes into this race doing the same thing. May 6th, 6-furlong race. May 31st, 6-furlong race, which was a win. Coming into this race, I'm expecting the same sort of results, except this year on top.
I have a horse who's got a kind of a similar sort of pattern, but Matt, you like this one too, right? So you want to piggyback his points a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, everything Barry said is right. And so, but I know, I think this horse is kind of prime, third back in the form cycle and can run well going along. And the other thing to keep in mind is I believe last year, Mobile Solution, I need to go back and double check, won this race with a 58 buyer. So it's not as if this is going to be, you don't necessarily need a monster effort. And I think Mobile Solution has lost a step. I think, based upon everything you're seeing, that horse now 8 years old, I think just maybe is not quite as fast as it used to be. And so I think, Relish the Ride makes a ton of sense. This was my top pick in this one.
Also 5 wins at Thistle. 5 to 9.
Yeah. And that goes back to the one point that I made earlier about like the one horse with the synthetic. It's like, I want to say this horse only has, 6 career wins. So 5 of the 6 are at Thistledown. So this is a, horse for course. I know some people believe in that, some people don't, but this is one where it's amazing how this horse brings his A game to Thistledown every time out.
I've got to play on the outside. Let's take a look at the number 10, and that is Danefield. So
Okay.
I kind of like to gravitate towards horses who you see have a lot of the lines on the left side of their PPs when they get back to running, 2 or 3 races in a row. I love horses that can start to put a few together. So look at Danefield. Took a shot on the turf last time out. He had a bad start, and then he went from a bad start right up to chasing, and he was chasing a lone speed winner. Like the worst type of trip you can have. You go from a bad start up to chase mode, and nobody's passing, and then you just back up. That was his second start back off of a long layoff. His first start back, you look at it, it was in a $20,000 claiming race. But what's interesting, that was actually against Open Company. So while the level doesn't look that strong, that's probably a tougher spot than this race, or probably pretty comparable to this race when you're facing Open Company. The key really is he's run well at Thistledown. He's run well on the dirt. And I think with the outside draw, he's going to be forced to be forward a little bit. And I hope he just is forward and sits beautifully. I think he can absolutely get in the mix with this group with some of his better races. Like, he's just not one of those overall consistent horses, but that's what I'm looking for today. That's why his price is a little bit higher. He's 12-1 on the morning line. Danefield, so it'll only cost you $750 to use in your stable dual lineup. 12-1 on Danefield. Third start off the bench, expecting better. He was 3-1 in that last race. This is a horse who's gotten bet in similar spots. I like him here. Danefield for me, and for both Barry and for Maddie, Relish the Ride at 5-1. Big Truck's probably like the measuring stick for the race. Probably the horse they'll have to beat in here. He'll make his third start of the form cycle as well. Let's just move along to the final two, the stakes races. We can kind of hit on the both of those since we're here. First up, it's the Lady Jacqueline going 1 mile and an eighth. And Matt, when we were talking in the chat the other day, one of the first things that we mentioned was, the pick 4 looks good. I think we can beat Interstate Daydream. And that I
know we can beat Interstate Daydream.
Right. And that's where we got to take a shot in this particular race, because while she is super honest, you can't take away anything that she's done. She was your Black-Eyed Susan winner last year. She's a multiple graded stakes winner.
Yep.
She just doesn't look like she's progressed at 4 based visually or on speed figures, like the eye test or what you're seeing on paper.
You're absolutely right. And we should say there's a lot of speed in this race. And she is the type of horse that does need the right type of setup. And she's also the type of horse, you look at her running lines, She runs in place. If she breaks and gets to the lead, she wins. If she runs third, she finishes third. If she runs fourth, she finishes fourth. Like that's just she does not pass horses very much, or she does. She needs to be just sitting on their outside flank, kind of very close second and then going. She's not going to get that trip. She is going to be sitting third, fourth, or fifth in this race because there is a lot better speed in this race than her.
Yeah.
And so she's just not going to get the trip at all. I like, though, it's borderline on the no chalk zone. It's the third choice, but La Vida is the horse that I really like here because I think the race just sets up beautifully for her because she's been closing into slow fractions and she's not going to have to worry about that this time. She's going to become running late. She's won at this distance down in Chile, in a graded stakes race. She's got some nice efforts here. I really like the Ignacio Correas barn. This is the same barn that has the horse Didia, who I think a lot of us are a big fan of as well, who we saw come up from South America to run really well. So La Vida is my pick in this one, but I think you can easily beat Interstate Daydream in this race because I just think the race does not set up well, and I think the pace does not set up well for her.
Every time I see this, I want to sing that Coldplay song. I used to rule the world, feel the fear. Is it Viva La Vida? I believe that was a big.
Yes.
That was a big one. That was like one of those. Like, oh yeah, that was one of those. Get the shoulders.
I thought you were going to
pumping.
go with Ricky Martin, Living
Every
La Vida
time.
Loca.
That's so faithful.
Because I would have gone. She bangs, oh baby, when she moves. As
What's funny about this race is I thought, or still think maybe, kind of, that 63 caliber was
That's mine.
like a lock.
Yeah.
I thought the horse was a lock here. That's why I didn't give it out. I thought that was
that's me. Because just the form, looking at 63 caliber overall, this is a horse who's only raced 10 times, 5 wins, put a line through the dirt sprint race last year before she broke her maiden. Now let's look at her since she broke her maiden. She wins at Indy. She comes back. She wins her second start. In her third start, she loses the Interstate Daydream. It was a good turf course. It was a good course that day at Indy. She was not quite as experienced, and so she was spotting a little, but she still improved on speed figures and finished fourth that day. Following that, back-to-back victories. You see her win in the Comely. All we have to do is eliminate the 2 races right here back-to-back this year where they were sandwiched by layoffs. You see the race at Sam Houston on a muddy track, and then she comes back in her next start in the La Troyenne, and that was a tough race with Played Hard, Secret Oath, and Search Results. And Played Hard came back and ran really well again in the Ogden Phipps, and she showed she's a good older filly and mare in that division too. And then 63 caliber just comes back, and this was only her second start. I'm saying her second, it's her third, but I guess it's like her second start at 4 in her pattern now, in her form cycle. So it feels like she's got one more step up to take even, Barry. I'm with you. She was my play in here at 5-1.
Yeah, that one looks good to me. I like the progression, like you said, and getting back with a caliber of horse that this one can definitely handle.
Yep. And the running style wise, she could get a really nice trip because she has some of that positional speed to where she can sort of put herself in a good spot and then maybe track back a few lengths behind, and maybe she can get the jump if some of the deeper closers get the setup.
She's the type of horse. That was my biggest concern with her.
Yeah, because it's pretty quick coming back, right? About 21 days, so we're back in 3 weeks. For 63 caliber, 5-1 on the morning line will cost you $6,000 in your stable dual lineup. Let's get to that Ohio Derby next. What a bang up race from 2 fills in the Kentucky Derby. It was an awesome effort. He was part of the early fast pace. He moved into the race early on. Basically, everyone else who was around early backed up and tired except for 2 fills. And the connections, they've done a really smart thing. They said, you know what? We're not going to push him. We're going to wait till when he's ready, and we're going to have a nice second half of the year. And so he has been pointed and primed for this race. He's your logical favorite in here. He's the deserving favorite. But Matt, Bishop's Bay, like we said, is a very good alternative if you're just looking to play this race individually. Then from a stable duel standpoint, if you want to go elsewhere, you can maybe look in a few different directions. How did you see this race shaping up?
I was the leader of the band of the Two Phils fan club. And so I love this horse. So he's my play in this race. I'm not going to get fancy in this one. This is my single. I just think he's better than everybody else here. And one of the things I'll say about Bishop's Bay, which Richie Migliori pointed out right after the Peter Pan, was when Bishop's Bay put a head in front of Arcangelo, all of a sudden the ears started looking around. Where are my buddies? Where are my friends?
Kind of waiting.
Well, yeah, exactly. And all of a sudden, Arcangelo goes right by. And if you look, Bishop's Bay has never won easy, despite being a huge favorite in his first 2 races. It's been close. And I just have a feeling at this level, he's a bit of a hanger. And I don't think he necessarily wants to kind of battle with horses in the same way that a horse like Two Phils, you saw in the Kentucky Derby, he battles. And he's gonna give you something. The horse that I think is intriguing to me, and it's all based upon what Henry Q decides to do from the inside rail. And I would imagine Henry Q is going to gun it, and he and Bishop's Bay are going to go out in front, and Two Phils is going to sit off of that. As a result, I kind of like Hayes Strike on the far outside. That's the play
in stable duel, I think.
Yeah, and that's the horse that I think does make a little bit of sense. There's a horse that has run against really nice competition throughout his career. Hard-knocking horse for Ken McPeak. Has 2 wins in his last 3 efforts now. Both of those are on Lasix. But again, the horse, going back to his juvenile campaign, has some nice races off Lasix as well, and is a deep closer. And if he gets the pace set up, I think he's a horse that's going to come running late. So if you don't want to spend $9,400 on Two Phils, I think spending $5,000 on Hayes Strike makes a little bit of sense in stable duel.
Yeah. Hard pass on Lord Miles too.
Me too. I
don't even understand how that horse is 7-2 in this.
I hate that morning line. I don't. There's no way I'm using him at that price.
No, you start getting into Hayes Strike too. Go through his most recent races. So he wins last time out. 2 starts back, he's in the Bluegrass, and his speed figure isn't bad. And in watching that race, the way the race played out, Verifying was second. Pressing was like right there pressing. Tappet Trice made that big early move, remember, to get into it. And then there was no passing. Like nobody else passed. There was basically a group about 5 lengths behind the top 2. And Hayes Strike wasn't that far behind that group. Like he was right there with them. And Blazing Sevens came back and ran well in the Preakness. So that race isn't bad. Actually, Verifying ran well last week at Ellis Park, finishing second behind Disarm. So that race has come back okay. He wins at Laurel. He beats Coffee with Chris and put a line through the synthetic race, right? Yeah. Now, all of a sudden, the form starts looking a little bit better. He's 4th in this race at Fairgrounds. It wasn't a bad effort in the Gun Runner because there just wasn't much pace that day. He's 3rd behind Instant Coffee and Curly Jack. He's 2nd behind Two Phils last year at Churchill. Yeah. You start going through all of his form. It's like, he's just a cut below some of the top 3-year-olds, but we see horses just like this every year start to peak right now. They just start to mature a little bit more. They develop a little bit more. And like you said, Matt, it'll just come down to the way the race shapes up for him. He needs a little bit of a pace shape.
Yeah, he does. And if he gets it with Henry Q and Bishop's Bay, then I think it makes sense. But you look at the horses he's run against. He's never run against a bad field, really. He runs against really nice fields. You're right. Coffee with Chris. And, even that 4th place finish was against Jace's Road, Raise Cane determinedly. These are, and
there was
nice
no
horses.
Passing that day. Like it was Jace's Road just went wire to wire.
Absolutely. And so, he's, even a horse like Iron Clover, who he beat last time out, Harlow Cap. Those are decent horses that he's beating. And so, he makes a lot of sense, I think, from a stable duel standpoint. But yeah, it's going to depend on the pace setup. But I think Henry Q on the rail is going to have to go, and and that's his MO, and so he's going to go. And then Bishop's Bay is going to want to be pretty dang forward, and so those two are going to be out in front. It's just how much they kind of go at each other. But Bishop's Bay hasn't really demonstrated the ability to want to sit too far off, so he's going to want to be no more than, I would guess, a half a length or 3/4 of a length off that pace. So. I think it sets up really well for Two Phils, but if you're going to try to find an alternative, I think, Hayes Strike makes a sense.
Let's go from Henry Q to Barry S for a final thought on this race, Barry. You said a little cold on Lord Miles. You think Two Phils, Bishop's Bay? What is sort of your thought on the race overall?
Well, it's all in how you want to position Two Phil's in this race. I mean, speed figure wise, he lays over this field. I could see a situation where this horse doesn't fire his best shot here because or you would think that the Ohio Derby isn't the final goal for a horse like Two Phil's.
For Philip.
Right.
So, there may be something on the horizon. I don't think that he'll run bad, just because the competition level here isn't as good as what he's faced the last, let's say, basically all his races this year.
Yeah, this is a cut below, right? This
right.
is
So it kind of
none of
stands
these
out.
were Derby horses, right? Like there weren't any of these horses that were. I mean, we had Lord Miles who qualified, but other than that, these were all the horses that were not able to get into the Derby. They didn't have points, right? So they were that next tier level, and it's smart for the connections to pick this spot out. Like as a softer, like you're saying, he may be able to show up
regress.
With
he doesn't have to run
or a
fast
B minus
and still win.
He runs a 95 in this race. He probably wins. And so he can take a huge step back. I mean,
but it's just pace dynamics, like you said.
Right.
A lot depends on what the one does and what Bishop's Bay does, because there's always that situation where one of those two connections just decide to, hey, we're not going to go to the lead, we're going to rate slightly, and that'll just throw the race into a different direction, because whoever gets to the front in that situation might be lone speed and win.
Might be.
So it's real dicey for a horse like Two Phil's, unless they just think they're just flat out faster and
just
go
sort
to
of
the front too.
Just go, and then, or like you go quick early and then you just sit right off, right? You let somebody get in front of you and you just sit right behind him as a target. Because that's, as a gambler, when I have a horse, or if I own the horse, that's how I would want some of my horses to be ridden in spots like this, right? You just sort of put them in that spot aggressively and you say, hey, if these horses are better than me, they're going to have to pass me, right? They're going to have to go by me. And maybe that's the case here. And like you said, Matt, I became a really big fan of Two Phil's like 2 weeks before the Derby. I wouldn't have said I was going to pick him. And then just sort of handicapping the race, seeing the way it played out, how he was coming into it, some of the other horses, how I thought it would shape up. I really became more and more a fan of his. And, as gamblers, sometimes we get frustrated when horses we bet run second or just miss or whatever. But like, that wasn't one of those ones where it was a tight beat on the wire. It was like, I'm so impressed with Two Phil's as of that. Like, as a gambler, I was like, man, he did everything he could to try to win that race for me. I expect him to have a really nice second half of the year.
Nobody else on that pace ran a lick after about the mile mark. And so it was, he ran a huge race that day. And I thought Jareth, he moved the horse exactly when he needed to move the horse. And because there was an opening and he needed to utilize that on that day, Two Phil's, it's so much respect for what that horse was able to do. And he just feels like, I remember I was really high on him all the way going back to the LeCompte, because he was just a versatile horse. Like, he could sit a lot of different types of trips. He doesn't need the lead. He can win from coming off. He can win. He can close. And really, with the exception of that Breeders' Futurity, where he had legitimate trouble, he's never had a bad race. And like, he just doesn't, he runs his race, and his races keep getting better and better. So I'm excited for that second half of the year with him, for sure.
Good luck to Two Phil's. Good luck to everyone out there who's playing at Thistledown this weekend.
Good luck to Milo, too.
Milo.
Man, he's off.
Milo's heading to school right now. I've got a parent-teacher conference to go to a little bit later on, so we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see how that one.
What is this guy Milo talking about, exactas in future wagers? What is
I know. I was going to say.
Come on, Dad.
Well, unfortunately,
I'm teaching him fractions.
he's in a cussing stage right now. But it does happen, and it's bad because, like, I was watching my dad the other day watch a race, and I was like, Dad, dude, we got to realize, because that is exactly how Milo's doing it. Like, the tone,
That's so
and
great.
like, he watches it, and it's like he sees at the point of the race, even like early in the stretch, when we would realize that our horses were done, That's when he's like, oh, F it. And he just says, it's like, oh my God, he even knows that like the horse is backing up right there.
Yeah.
That's scary. So I had a little incident. We had a little incident report waiting for us.
Well, at least it's not biting.
At school,
you know, the kids bite each other.
No, the biting's not. The biting hasn't been as bad. We'll get a hit every now and then. But yeah, the F-bombs, and they said too, they laughed. They said he seems like he knows when the right time to do it. They said, I think he knows the way
he
the
understands.
Yeah, he knows.
Well,
He's
hey,
got
man.
good comic timing. That's good.
Hey man, Breezy picked up a stick at daycare and whacked a kid one day. So you know that's what we're dealing with here. Like
That
she
is
literally just took the stick.
It just
said, he bothered me, Dad.
went to
Bothered
town.
me, Dad.
Went to
And
town.
I was like, what?
Went to town on him. So yeah, we'll see. I'll see what the progress report looks like for Milo a little bit later on. But I hope all of you have a great weekend. Good luck at Thistle Down. Good luck at Royal Ascot. Don't forget about the free game tonight at the Meadows. If you need some help, the plays that I gave out today are also written down in a blog at stableduel.com. Matt, this weekend, Royal Ascot, Thistle Down. I saw stuff that you have. What other content do we have from you?
Yeah. So we got the late pick for Spencer Luganbull joined me. We talked about that. And then I just confirmed this while we were talking. I'm going to be doing a live stream tomorrow morning starting at 9 a.m. For all day for Royal Ascot. So Royal Ascot live stream. If you want to hang out, I'll be joined by a bunch of different people, maybe you guys as well. And
Nice.
you'll be getting that nudge. So be doing that. But yeah, just follow me on Twitter at Failed to Menace. You'll see what I do.
Barry, my man, what's up for you this weekend?
Not much, you know. I thought about going to the beach tomorrow, but I think it's gonna rain. But yeah, you know, playing the races, you know, doing my thing. But as always, Going in Circles podcast every Monday into /Tuesday, and you know, Twitter, and Facebook, and TikTok, and Instagram, and wherever I'm everywhere, man.
Everywhere. Always happy to interact with all of you, as are all three of us. Fellas, love this part of my week, getting the chance to talk some racing with my buddies before the weekend starts. I hope everybody has a great one. We'll see you again next week right here on This Week in Stable Duel. And let's say goodbye, but hello to Joey Cleveland.
Better. You want to spread your pony knowledge wide. Oh, better. I got a place where winning ain't tough to do. You wanna be cool, stable, do.